No one expected it. Queen Camilla, once proudly crowned alongside King Charles, has now been shut out of the palace in complete disgrace. She was caught in a secret affair with a former royal aide and linked to the theft of precious heirlooms that belonged to Princess Diana. Her double betrayal tore the monarchy apart from the inside. Devastated and furious, King Charles acted without hesitation. What he once stood by and risked everything for had crossed an unforgivable line, both personally and royally. What started as rumors ended in exile. The truth is finally out. Camilla didn't just betray Charles, she betrayed the crown itself. And this time there's no way back through those palace doors. The damning evidence came in the form of high-resolution surveillance photos showing Camilla intimately embracing Edward Langley, a long-time royal staffer with a close personal history with her. What was explained as a solo wellness retreat was, in reality, far more compromising. Late-night meetings, wine glasses in hand, secret embraces behind closed windows. At first, Charles couldn't believe it. But palace security confirmed the photos were genuine, matching Langley's ID and movements precisely. This wasn't gossip, it was undeniable betrayal. But the affair was only the beginning. Charles launched an investigation that revealed troubling overlaps with the royal vault's entry logs. Camilla had accessed the heirloom vault under the pretense of research. That same week, she left the palace carrying a locked trunk that wasn't recorded in any artifact checkout. The signs were glaring. Charles ordered the palace security to track the trunk and follow Langley. What unfolded exposed not just a secret affair, but a covert operation to steal from the royal legacy, all under the cover of love and loyalty. Camilla's double life wasn't just about romance, it was a calculated theft hidden in plain sight. The internal report confirmed she had used a decommissioned override code to bypass security protocols, a code that should have been inactive for years. This was betrayal on multiple levels, personal, royal, and historic. The queen consort had become a traitor to the crown. On that very day, Diana's caterpillar earrings and the Spencer choker, valued together at £650,000, were reported missing in the latest archive inventory. Security footage from Clarence House's loading area showed Camilla's car parked there for 45 minutes as a trunk was loaded, though no one knew what was inside. The trunk was then taken to her private suite near Windsor, the same place where Edward Langley stayed during her supposed wellness retreat. That trunk never made its way back. Staff began to grow suspicious, but kept quiet until King Charles launched his investigation. Private messages recovered from Camilla's encrypted tablet revealed emotionally charged exchanges with Edward Langley, including lines like, "You always understood me better than he ever did," and, "This time, it's ours." It became clear she hadn't just betrayed Charles's trust. She was quietly stripping pieces of royal history for a man with no title and no claim to the legacy. This was far beyond a scandal based on rumors. The facts were laid out in dates, access codes, and missing heirlooms. The crown was compromised, not by an outsider, but by the very woman who once vowed to protect it. Charles now faced the toughest challenge of his reign, balancing personal heartbreak with his duty to the nation. Armed with overwhelming evidence, Charles prepared for a confrontation that would change everything. One evening, he summoned Camilla to a private room in Buckingham Palace. The doors were locked, staff dismissed. It was no royal chat, but an interrogation. With time-stamped photos, security logs, and encrypted messages from palace intelligence, Charles laid it all out calmly. He didn't yell or accuse. Instead, he quietly asked, "Who is he?" But the question wasn't just about the man in the photos. It was about what had been taken. Camilla, caught off guard, started with gentle denials. "He's an old friend," she said. "It was just a wellness retreat. You were busy with Parliament." But her story had too many holes. Charles then opened another folder, vault access logs, showing that Camilla had used a special code to enter the private heirloom collection. She left early in the morning and returned hours later with that same unregistered trunk, which had never been seen again. "This isn't just cheating," Charles pressed. "You used Diana's legacy as bait. Did you think I wouldn't find out?" Camilla broke down in tears but couldn't explain why Diana's 1986 pearl earrings were missing from the vault or how they ended up in her daughter's possession. She insisted it was all a misunderstanding, but the damage was irreversible. Later, Charles told aides, "She didn't just betray me. She insulted my mother's memory, the woman I failed to protect." The fragile trust that had survived decades of scandal, from Diana's heartbreak to Camilla's slow acceptance, was finally shattered. Charles couldn't sleep that night. Alone in his private quarters, he stared into the fire, quietly murmuring, "Diana warned me." By morning, he had made a firm decision. Camilla's access to the vaults, the council, and all ceremonial archives would be revoked within 48 hours. This was no longer just about a secret affair. It was about the very survival of the monarchy. But Charles wasn't the only one watching. Someone else had been silently waiting for the right moment to act, Princess Anne. At a small private luncheon held to celebrate Princess Charlotte's charity milestone, only close family and trusted aides were present. Catherine arrived wearing a soft blue dress Diana had once worn. Her attention was immediately drawn to Laura Lopes, Camilla's daughter, seated nearby, sporting a striking pair of pearl drop earrings, 3 cascading pearls tipped with diamonds, softly shimmering in the sunlight. Catherine didn't look away. Within minutes, she had her assistant pull up the heirloom catalog from the Windsor archives. The match was unmistakable, a state gift to Princess Diana from 1986, famously worn during her London opera visit. The serial numbers and clasp design were unique and identifiable. Catherine didn't confront Laura right away. She observed carefully, calculating her next move. Then, calmly and in front of witnesses, she asked, "Where did you get those earrings?" Laura hesitated, then replied they were a gift from her mother, something meant to be passed down. Without showing emotion, Catherine handed the earrings over to the palace gemologist, already alerted due to security concerns, for verification. By early afternoon, it was confirmed. These were the original earrings, last logged in the archives in 2023, earmarked for Princess Charlotte's 18th birthday 2 decades from now. The atmosphere shifted immediately. William arrived later that evening, and Catherine whispered a single word. "Confirmed." The room fell silent. Charles, informed privately, declined to attend the luncheon but immediately called an emergency meeting with his legal advisors. William's words afterward were sharp and clear. "She tried to weave her bloodline into a legacy that's not hers. This isn't inheritance, it's infiltration." For Charles, that moment marked the breaking point. Camilla hadn't simply lied. She had attempted to rewrite royal history for her own gain. With Diana's earrings dangling from the ears of someone without a royal title, the symbolism was impossible to ignore. What followed was swift and decisive. Behind the closed doors of Clarence's house, Camilla would be stripped not only of her jewels, but also of her status, facing public disgrace in private. An emergency royal council was convened to deal with the crisis, and the fate of the monarchy hung in the balance. Only 5 people were in the room: Charles, William, Catherine, Princess Anne, and the royal constitutional advisor. The atmosphere was cold, clinical, and heavy with gravity. No press was notified, no public statement was planned. But inside that room, history was being reshaped. Charles laid out the evidence: photos, security logs, gemologist reports, and records of missing heirlooms on the table. "This is no longer a family matter," he declared. "This is a breach of Crown protocol." Anne, known for her bluntness, was furious. "She used our mother's name, our history, and our grief as leverage," she said sharply. William remained silent until prompted. When he spoke, his words were firm. "My mother was erased once. We won't allow it to happen again." Catherine said nothing, her hands resting on a fresh file listing vault inventory, her quiet resolve more powerful than any outburst. Charles then issued 5 immediate orders. Camilla's access to the palace was suspended within 48 hours. Her communications team would be reassigned shortly after. All vault and archive access codes were to be changed immediately. Her royal security detail was halved. Though she would keep the title of Queen Consort, her duties were stripped away. She became a symbolic ghost in the monarchy, not formally expelled, but completely locked out. That evening, Camilla received a sealed envelope delivered by Charles's personal courier. Inside was an official directive bearing the royal seal and a handwritten note at the bottom. "Trust is broken." Staff at Clarence House quietly began preparations to relocate her. Within days, she would be gone. But the public wouldn't stay in the dark for long. By the next morning, the story exploded across headlines and social media. Major newspapers led with blazing headlines: Queen Camilla's secret affair and jewel theft scandal. The story wasn't just leaked, it was detonated. Photos of Camilla with her companion from the private retreat were published alongside palace records confirming her unauthorized access to the royal vault. Then came the headline that rocked the monarchy: "Legacy betrayed. Diana's jewels found in the possession of Camilla's daughter." Social media erupted instantly. Hashtags like #CheatingQueen, "Arch-Diana deserved better," and "Not my queen" flooded Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram across dozens of countries. A viral video comparing Camilla's daughter, wearing the 1986 Qatar earrings, to archival footage of Diana ignited fresh outrage. One post alone racked up millions of views within hours. For many, this wasn't just a scandal of personal betrayal. It was an assault on the nation's history and memory. Palace insiders quietly told journalists that Camilla had already been stripped of all her operational duties. Leaked emails revealed royal aides rushing to revise press statements and reassign staff at Clarence House. The BBC cut into regular programming with a live special titled "The Queen Who Went Too Far." Tabloid headlines followed with brutal honesty: "Legacy looted," "Betraying Diana twice," and "Camilla's final fall." Public opinion hit a historic low. Polls showed Camilla's approval rating crashing to just 21%, the worst since she joined the royal family. Meanwhile, Catherine's popularity soared to 85%, and Princess Charlotte emerged as a powerful symbol of the protected royal legacy. For many, this was about more than removing Camilla. It was about finally defending Diana's memory. 2 decades too late, but just in time for history to set things right. As the media storm raged, King Charles prepared one last order. Camilla's exile was no longer symbolic. It was official, constitutional, and permanent. He summoned his private secretary and issued a confidential directive formally downgrading Camilla to a non-operational royal. The order revoked her ceremonial duties, event participation, vault access, and communication privileges, though she would retain the title of Queen Consort for protocol's sake. In reality, she was banished from the monarchy's inner circle. That same day, palace security changed all digital and biometric access to the royal archives. Camilla's aides were removed from Clarence House, and she was privately escorted to her estate in rural Wiltshire, far from Windsor's inner circle. She was told she could not return to any royal residence without explicit written permission from the monarch. It was a soft exile, but no less devastating. At her estate, Camilla reportedly spent the first 2 days alone. Her children, Tom Parker Bowles and Laura Lopes, visited briefly but avoided the press and left quietly through a side gate. Once the Queen Consort standing beside the monarch in public, she now lived behind shuttered windows and silent phones. Her former driver, speaking anonymously, said she didn't speak during the drive, just stared out the window, pale and hollow. The Queen Consort had become a ghost. That afternoon, Charles sent a private message to palace staff. No one, not even those we once loved, stands above legacy. My duty is to the crown and to the memory of those who built it. Though never made public, insiders say those words are now framed in his private study alongside portraits of Queen Elizabeth II and Princess Diana from 1982. With Camilla removed, all attention shifted to the woman quietly bearing the weight of restoration. Catherine. Because the monarchy wasn't just cleaning house, it was rebuilding its vaults, its memory, and the public's trust. Catherine was reclaiming Diana's legacy. Princess Catherine entered the royal vault beneath Windsor Castle, accompanied only by Lady Eleanor Moore, the crown's chief archivist. Together, they began the meticulous process of securing every remaining artifact connected to Princess Diana. Items like the 1981 Spencer choker, the 1985 sapphire brooch, and a handwritten letter Diana had written to William before her death. The vault's biometric system was reconfigured so that only Catherine and Charlotte's future steward would have access. As Catherine closed the final drawer, she placed a single envelope inside, delicately inscribed with the words, "For Charlotte, in strength and memory. Love, Mommy." Those words carried more than a mother's love. They were a solemn royal vow. Staff present described the moment as quiet, but profoundly impactful. It wasn't about titles or publicity. It was about safeguarding what Camilla had once tried to steal. That afternoon, Kensington Palace released 2 photographs, one showing Catherine standing in front of the vault doors, the other of Charlotte holding a framed picture of Diana. The images quickly went viral, shared tens of millions of times across social media platforms. A new hashtag emerged, #LegacySecured. Calls came from Parliament for a formal royal ceremony to officially recognize Catherine as protector of the royal archives. Public opinion polls showed overwhelming support for Catherine taking a stronger role in royal affairs, with many believing she deserved to be titled queen, not just by marriage, but by popular acclaim. To the public, the monarchy now had a renewed moral center rooted in Diana's grace, Charlotte's future, and Catherine's unwavering dignity. But while Catherine quietly secured the vault, another story was resurfacing. Camilla's dark past was coming back to light. Her transgressions didn't begin recently, and the world was about to revisit everything she hoped had been buried forever. As Camilla's betrayal dominated headlines, journalists and historians began uncovering long-hidden scandals. Old controversies, like the infamous 1993 tampon gate, leaked phone call between Charles and Camilla that humiliated the monarchy and confirmed their affair during his marriage to Diana, were revisited with fresh eyes. Back then, public opinion had been split. Now exposed for theft, infidelity, and manipulation, Camilla's past was being judged harshly. Reports scrutinized her vault visits in 2017 and 2021, once dismissed as simple heritage tours. But new whistleblowers from Clarence House revealed those trips involved unrecorded removals and altered heirloom records, proof of a deeper pattern of deception. Financial analysts linked Camilla's previous vault visits to the disappearance of 2 Victorian brooches and a set of Georgian sapphire cufflinks that later surfaced anonymously at an auction in Geneva. The pieces of the puzzle were coming together. This wasn't a single mistake. It was a decades-long pattern. Even her closest allies started distancing themselves. The Royal PR Consortium, which had managed Camilla's image since she joined the royal family, quietly ended their contract. Publishers postponed the release of her anticipated memoir. Key staff at Clarence House, including her former stylist and personal assistant, requested transfers. Meanwhile, Camilla's family, Annabelle, Tom Parker Bowles, and Laura Lopes, retreated from public view amid separate financial investigations. Her inner circle collapsed like a fragile paper crown. The most symbolic blow came directly from the palace. Camilla's profile was quietly removed from the official Buckingham Palace website's Working Royals page. Archived versions still showed her smiling beside Charles in pearls, but now she was simply gone. No formal announcement, no explanation, just a silent erasure that spoke volumes. In the royal records, she no longer existed. Camilla hadn't merely fallen from grace, she had been wiped from legacy. While Camilla faded into obscurity, another woman rose quietly, not through scandal or spin, but through steady strength and unwavering loyalty. For the public, there was no question about who deserved the crown next: the people's queen. On a quiet morning, Princess Catherine and Princess Charlotte visited a children's literacy charity in Oxford. No press releases, no sparkling jewels, just two generations walking hand in hand among books, laughter, and gentle smiles. The image spoke louder than words. Within hours, it became the most shared royal photo of the year, amassing tens of millions of views. The message was clear. The monarchy was healing, and Catherine was its future. British tabloids celebrated with headlines like "The Crown is Safe Again," "Charlotte's Guardian," and "Kate the Great." Major broadcasters, including the BBC, Sky News, and CNN, aired retrospectives drawing parallels between Diana's legacy and Catherine's steady rise. The Telegraph published an op-ed calling for Catherine's official elevation in title. If the Queen Consort title could be stripped in disgrace, it could also be granted with honor. Public opinion mirrored this shift. Surveys showed overwhelming support for formally crowning Catherine when the time came. Inside the palace, change was already in motion. Though still heartbroken, Charles hadn't spoken to Camilla since her suspension. Close aides confirmed he was considering restructuring the Royal Succession Council to elevate and protect Catherine's role without interruption. Meanwhile, Princess Anne led efforts to tighten heirloom security, and Prince William prepared to take on more ceremonial duties in the near future. The crown hadn't weakened. It was being reforged, stronger and more transparent than ever. Camilla now lives alone at her private estate, erased from palace records, absent from royal ceremonies, and with her legacy defined by betrayal. Even her children's business ventures have crumbled. The monarchy, however, moves forward, renewed and resilient. Their bank accounts were frozen amid a royal audit. Their names splashed across headlines around the world. In the end, Camilla wasn't just guilty of betraying Charles. She was guilty of betraying history itself. Though the palace never released an official statement, the public had already spoken. Catherine is their queen. Queen Camilla's story didn't end with grace. It ended in scandal. Once whispered about behind closed doors, a woman who rose to the throne against all odds was now cast out, not by rumors or the public, but by the very man who defied tradition for her. King Charles, torn between love and duty, chose legacy. He chose loyalty to the crown. He chose to protect what remained of Diana's memory and preserve the sacred fabric of the monarchy. For Camilla, it wasn't just a fall from grace. It was a complete unraveling. Years of ambition, secrecy, and manipulation came crashing down within days. The photos, the missing jewels, the so-called wellness retreats, the altered vault records, all told the same story: betrayal upon betrayal. When the truth came out, not even her royal title could protect her. She wasn't just exiled from Buckingham Palace. She was erased from royal life. But amid the wreckage, something else emerged, something purer. Catherine, with quiet dignity and steady resolve, stepped into the void, not through drama or revenge, but by simply standing firm. She reclaimed Diana's legacy, secured Princess Charlotte's future, and reminded the world what the monarchy could still represent: integrity, strength, and service. The people responded, in tweets, letters, and polls. They crowned her not just in spirit, but in truth. The queen they never doubted. The queen they had waited for. Camilla now walks alone through the gardens of her private estate, far from the halls of power. Haunted by the echoes of what might have been, facing memories she can't rewrite and doors she can never reopen. History has judged her, and this time it showed no mercy. Meanwhile, the crown stands firm. Perhaps a little bruised, but stronger, leaner, and wiser. Because what Camilla forgot is this. Titles can be given, even forced. But respect, legacy, and trust, they must be earned. And once broken, they rarely heal. In the end, Camilla lost everything she tried to take. And Catherine? She never asked for the throne. She earned it by standing still while the entire palace shook. Now the world knows exactly who the real queen is. Camilla's worst nightmare just became reality. Princess Catherine uncovered an unbelievable betrayal. Two of Diana's most treasured heirlooms, valued at over £600,000, had disappeared without a trace. The prime suspect? Camilla herself. Security footage and logs told the story. Camilla was caught red-handed when her daughter showed up wearing Diana's earrings at a royal luncheon. Without hesitation, William took action and expelled Camilla from Kensington Palace. This wasn't just a quiet dismissal or a symbolic gesture. It was total and absolute. Because this theft was more than just about jewels. It was a betrayal of Diana's memory and a direct threat to Charlotte's future. The discovery began when Catherine was reviewing the family's collection of heirlooms, preparing a private exhibit in honor of Charlotte. Two items immediately caught her attention. Diana's pearl choker, a gift from the Spencer family on her 18th birthday, and the rare Qatar pearl earrings, a diplomatic gift from the mid-80s. Both were missing from their secure cases, and the vault's records showed no authorized removal. Despite thorough checks, including fingerprint-secured safes and surveillance cameras, there were no signs of forced entry or official sign-outs. The missing items hadn't been logged since early May, and Catherine was certain this was no accident or administrative oversight. Someone with inside knowledge had deliberately taken the pieces. William moved swiftly. An emergency lockdown was imposed on all remaining heirlooms, vault keys were reassigned, and the royal audit protocol was reinstated to track every piece Diana ever owned. In private conversations, William and Catherine faced a painful truth. This wasn't just a security breach, it was a personal attack on Charlotte's inheritance and legacy. To the public, palace life went on as usual. Photo ops, charity events, and royal duties carried on without interruption. But behind the scenes, a deep crisis was unfolding. These jewels were never meant to be worn until Charlotte reached adulthood. The question that lingered was simple, but chilling. Who took them, and why? The answer would reveal itself not in whispers, but in the bold display of pearls worn openly by someone who should never have touched them. A stark reminder that Diana's legacy was under threat, right under the palace's roof. The missing choker was far more than just a piece of jewelry. It was one of the very first gifts Diana received as a member of the royal family. On her 18th birthday, the Spencer family presented her with the pearl choker, a symbol of the dynasty she was joining. The necklace featured 4 strands of freshwater pearls and a diamond clasp at its center, and it had been valued at £100,000 back in 1998 after Diana's passing. Diana famously wore the choker on her honeymoon cruise through the Mediterranean just days after her wedding. The earrings, however, were even more extraordinary. During a state visit to Qatar, Diana was gifted a set of 3-tiered pearl drop earrings by the Emir himself, a prestigious honor traditionally reserved for foreign queens. She wore those earrings frequently throughout 1986 and 1987, including during her pregnancy with William. One iconic photograph captured her at a London gala, radiant and glowing, the earrings shimmering under chandelier light as she gently rested a hand on her baby bump. By 2005, these precious pieces were carefully secured within the Windsor archives on the orders of Queen Elizabeth II. They remained untouched for nearly 20 years, until Catherine requested their preservation in 2023, with no intention of displaying them publicly. It had been decided that both the choker and the earrings would be entrusted to Princess Charlotte on her 18th birthday, a powerful symbol that Diana's grace, strength, and legacy would live on through her granddaughter. This was far more than a fashion statement. It was a passing of the torch. That's why their disappearance felt so deeply personal. These jewels were not just symbols of status. They embodied Diana's journey from a hesitant teenager to an international icon, from a reserved princess to a devoted and fierce mother. Their theft wasn't just a missing entry on an inventory sheet, it was an attempt to erase a legacy. Whoever took them wasn't motivated by style or monetary worth. They sought to sever Diana's royal lineage and block Charlotte's rightful inheritance. As Catherine absorbed the gravity of what had been lost, she maintained her composure behind a mask of royal dignity. The media remained unaware. The staff stayed silent. But one clue could not be concealed. A detail that would transform suspicion into outright confrontation. During a family luncheon, Catherine's eyes locked onto Laura Lopes, Camilla's daughter, who entered the room wearing the very earrings that had vanished from the vault. The 3 perfectly matched pearl drops were unmistakable. At first, Catherine said nothing, observing quietly. Then she discreetly asked her assistant to verify the earrings against the jewelry archives. Within minutes, the confirmation came back. They were the exact same earrings gifted by the Emir of Qatar in 1986, with the distinctive diamond threading. A heavy silence fell over the room. Catherine locked eyes with Laura and, for the first time in front of more than 30 guests, confronted her directly. "What are you wearing?" Catherine asked, her voice steady but cutting. Laura hesitated, then muttered, "A gift from Mother." Camilla, seated just 2 chairs away, suddenly went pale. William arrived shortly after, having been alerted through a private security message. Catherine didn't waver. She turned to Camilla and stated clearly, "Those belong to Charlotte." Conversation in the room ground to a halt. William immediately called for a palace gemologist to examine the earrings. In a private room, under magnification, every detail was scrutinized. The serial coding, clasp design, pearl alignment, all matched perfectly. "These are the originals," the expert confirmed. It was undeniable. The missing earrings hadn't vanished. They had been stolen and brazenly worn inside the Queen's own residence. For Catherine, suspicion turned into full-blown conflict. The luncheon confrontation ignited whispers that quickly spread into headlines. Within hours, palace staff spoke in hushed, coded tones. Assistants began double-checking inventories while William's private office issued strict orders to maintain silence. But the quiet wouldn't last. As Camilla and Laura scrambled to cover their tracks, they set off a chain reaction that no amount of damage control could stop. What followed would expose the truth and open the door to a scandal decades in the making. Laura, visibly shaken, offered a vague explanation to royal aides, claiming the pearl earrings were a gift from Camilla, supposedly purchased at a private auction years ago. But there was no receipt or proof. When pressed, she couldn't even recall the auction house's name. Her story quickly fell apart. The Royal Collection team cross-checked all auction records from major houses between 2010 and 2020, Sabes, Bonhams, Phillips, and found no matching purchase. Meanwhile, palace security logs revealed a critical detail. Camilla had entered the secure jewelry wing housing Catherine's vault alone, without staff or clearance. She claimed it was for heritage research ahead of an upcoming tour, but no such tours were scheduled. That evening, William convened a private meeting with his top advisors and legal counsel. When told of Camilla's account, he reportedly remained silent before stating firmly, "This isn't a mistake. This is theft." He rejected suggestions from King Charles's aides to handle the matter quietly. "No," William said, "this doesn't get swept under the rug." Catherine, calm but resolute, agreed. If we don't act, it signals that Diana's memory is disposable. Within 2 days, the story leaked. A major newspaper ran a front-page headline linking the Queen's family to the missing Diana jewels, with anonymous palace sources confirming the items were meant for Princess Charlotte. The media frenzy erupted instantly, and royal social media accounts were flooded with outrage. One comment captured the public sentiment perfectly. "You didn't just steal earrings, you stole from Diana's granddaughter." The palace could no longer hide behind tradition or carefully crafted images. Camilla's cover story was shattered, and the world was watching. But while public anger boiled outside palace walls, inside the royal circle, William was preparing a response far more severe. Removing Camilla was only the beginning. William was determined to strip Camilla of the one thing she still clung to: her royal privileges. The monarchy had moved beyond mere titles. It was now about trust, and Camilla had shattered that trust. In a confidential royal directive, William officially revoked Camilla's access to all heirloom archives and any involvement in ceremonial planning. The document made clear that she was barred from participating in anything related to Diana's personal collection, the rotation of royal jewelry, or the curation of historical wardrobes. "You don't get to rewrite Diana's legacy," he said, according to a senior aide. "Not through public relations, and certainly not through theft." Palace staff were informed that Camilla was no longer welcome in the private residences at Kensington. Though she remained queen consort in name, her influence was wiped away overnight. She was removed from Wales-led events, had her security clearance downgraded, and was notably absent from the annual Royal Council's Heirloom Strategy Session, an event she had never missed since 2005. The symbolic impact was profound. Insiders described her departure as quiet but complete. There was no press release, no apology, no official explanation, but everyone within the palace understood she was effectively banished. She no longer walked the halls Diana once did. Catherine chose silence publicly, issuing no statement. Instead, she focused on Charlotte's summer calendar, school, charity appearances, and archival visits. Life continued, but the royal hierarchy had shifted irrevocably. The media reacted swiftly. The Telegraph called it an internal exile, while The Guardian framed it as a correction of the royal narrative. On social media, memes of Camilla leaving the palace with suitcase emojis went viral, and hashtags like "hat thrown out" and "not your crown" trended within hours. For the public, this wasn't just satisfaction. It was symbolic justice. The monarchy had made a clear choice. But for Catherine and William, this wasn't about revenge. It was about legacy. The crown was more than an institution. It was a guardian of memory. When someone tried to rewrite those memories, yet what truly shocked the palace wasn't just Camilla's actions. It was the deeper pattern behind them. Once the silence broke, whispers returned. Whispers from decades past, 1993, 1996, echoes of long-buried scandals resurfacing. The past was clawing its way back. And this time, it was ready to bite. For the royal family, jewelry wasn't mere glamour. It was storytelling through diamonds. Diana's pearl choker, gifted in 1981, marked the beginning of her royal journey. The Qatar earrings received in 1986 symbolized her rise as a global icon. Catherine had always treated these heirlooms as sacred. When those heirlooms vanished, it wasn't just about losing valuable property. It was a betrayal of a mother's memory, one meant to live on through Princess Charlotte. That's why Camilla's actions crossed a line no apology could ever mend. Behind closed doors, more documents came to light. Queen Elizabeth II had clearly stated that all of Diana's heirlooms were to remain within the Wales bloodline, specifically Catherine, William, and Charlotte. The message was unmistakable. Even in her final days, the Queen had drawn a firm boundary. Camilla's move didn't just break vault protocol, a senior aide said quietly. It violated Elizabeth's final wishes. Another whispered, "There's no way she was unaware. She just didn't care." But the deeper insult wasn't just the theft itself. It was who Camilla tried to pass the jewels to. Laura Lopes, a private citizen and not a working royal, had no rightful claim. By wearing those earrings, she inserted herself into a legacy that wasn't hers to touch. To the public, it felt like a stranger walking into Diana's history and putting it on like a costume. The symbolism struck a nerve, especially for those who still remembered the profound grief that followed Diana's passing. That sorrow was reignited. Commentators called it an emotional robbery. Over 100,000 tweets poured in, and newspapers reprinted photos of Diana wearing the pearl choker alongside images of Laura flaunting the earrings. The stark contrast spoke volumes. One headline summed it up: "From Diana to Charlotte, interrupted." But that interruption wouldn't last long. Catherine was ready to protect that legacy once and for all. With Camilla sidelined and the vault secured, the public looked to Catherine, not for revenge, but for reassurance. Would she defend what remained? Would she shield Charlotte's inheritance from further harm? Her answer came not in words, but in quiet, resolute action. Catherine hadn't just inherited Diana's jewels. She'd inherited her fire, and now she was prepared to wield it. As Camilla withdrew from the public eye, darker memories began to resurface. Scandals long buried beneath 2 decades of silence. The headlines no longer just spoke of stolen earrings. They reminded the world of what came before. The affair with Prince Charles during his marriage to Diana, the whispered late-night phone calls, and most notoriously, the infamous 1993 Tampon Gate tapes, all returned to haunt her. This time, no amount of spin or PR could bury the truth. Camilla's public image, always fragile, took a devastating hit. After marrying Charles, she had spent years cultivating a role defined by quiet support, refined duty, and soft diplomacy. But palace insiders now admit her rise was bolstered by media allies and a PR machine designed to bury inconvenient truths. With the heirloom scandal blowing up, journalists and commentators began digging through old records. One Times reporter tweeted, "She wasn't trusted then, she's not trusted now." Even more damaging were whispers from within the palace walls. Senior aides, once loyal, started speaking anonymously. One revealed that Camilla had accessed Windsor's heritage storage multiple times in previous years, citing Heritage Review as justification. Although none of those items were reported missing, every past visit now raised new suspicions. This wasn't a one-time mistake, the aide said. It was a pattern, a quiet sense of entitlement. Amidst the chaos, Catherine remained unshaken. She never demanded jewels, never sought attention, and never made herself the center of anything. But the difference between the two women was impossible to ignore. Camilla's legacy was built on acquisition. Catherine's was rooted in service. As public support shifted, the choice became clear. Diana had once lost her crown to scandal. Now, her memory was reclaiming it through her daughter-in-law. The press didn't relent, and the palace couldn't sweep it under the rug. Camilla's past had resurfaced, and this time, it would not be silenced. While the world debated Camilla's fall from grace, Catherine stayed silent. Not because she had nothing to say, but because she was already planning her next move. What had been stolen was exposed. What remained would now be fiercely protected, not just by force, but by something far stronger: legacy. Catherine stood her ground with quiet dignity. In a discreet private ceremony deep within Kensington Palace, she personally oversaw the relocking of Diana's remaining heirlooms. The vault had been upgraded with biometric security and a dual-access system that responded to only 2 people, Catherine and Charlotte's appointed steward. No one else, even William, had direct access. The message was unmistakable. Diana's legacy was no longer shared. It was safeguarded and sealed. She said nothing to the media. No photos were released, just a simple handwritten note placed inside the vault, addressed only to Charlotte. Love, Mommy. Palace staff who were present described the atmosphere as solemn and focused. She wasn't angry or theatrical, one security official recalled. She was simply determined. That's when we all understood. This wasn't just about jewels, it was about protection. In the days that followed, shifts began within the palace. Aides from Clarence House requested reassignment to Kensington. Internal memos revealed growing loyalty toward the Wales household. For the first time since Queen Elizabeth's passing, a clear moral authority had emerged within the royal family. And it wasn't Charles. It wasn't Camilla. It was Catherine. Public opinion mirrored the shift. Polls showed Catherine's approval rating soaring to historic highs, while Camilla's support plummeted to record lows. The people had spoken. They believed the future of the crown belonged to Diana's true heir, not her replacement. As Catherine quietly solidified the family's legacy through careful control, William took a more assertive approach. No longer content to simply react, he began issuing orders that would redraw the royal power structure. What Camilla had broken couldn't be ignored, and what Charles refused to face, William was determined to dismantle piece by piece. Because this wasn't just about jewels anymore. It was about restoring Diana's name, one locked door at a time. William made his stance impossible to ignore. He issued a sweeping internal directive that halted all heirloom access requests from any family members outside the Wales line. Camilla and her immediate circle, including Laura Lopes, were officially blacklisted from jewelry and wardrobe archives, with permanent notations added to the Royal Heirloom Registry. For the first time, Diana's name, her belongings, and her legacy were formally protected by policy. In a private meeting at Clarence House, William confronted Charles directly. Sources report the conversation was tense and decisive, signaling a royal family forever changed. He declared, "If you won't defend her legacy, I will." Charles, stunned, offered no public response. Behind closed palace doors, aides described the king as visibly shaken and increasingly isolated. In the weeks that followed, he canceled multiple joint appearances with Camilla, sparking rumors that the crown was fracturing from within. Meanwhile, Kensington Palace quietly established an internal heirloom task force. 7 staff members were reassigned to oversee the rotation, preservation, and digital tracking of every item Diana had ever worn. Though the move was subtle, it was unprecedented. "He's not just protecting Charlotte," one royal archivist explained. "He's reinforcing history and securing doors Diana never could." The public noticed and responded. Letters flooded in from across the Commonwealth, many addressed to Charlotte. One from an 82-year-old woman in Canada read, "Diana would be proud of your mother." Hashtags like #ProtectCharlotte, #Diana Forever, and #The True Legacy surged across social media. The monarchy was evolving, and the people were paying close attention. The vault was locked. Lines were drawn. The family was divided. Though Charles and Camilla remained in official power, public loyalty had clearly shifted. In the story of Diana's memory, the people had made their choice, and that choice was now etched not in gold, but in public trust. What followed wasn't just judgment. It was the coronation of a queen who hadn't yet worn a crown but had already claimed it. The public made its stance clear. This was no longer about stolen jewels or broken trust. It was about who stood for something, and who tried to destroy it. Online, hashtags exploded. Justice for Diana trended in over 80 countries. #Charlotte. Deserves Better reached over 1 million mentions within days. Even mainstream media took notice. BBC Newsnight aired a full segment titled "Legacy Reclaimed: The Catherine Effect." Camilla, now absent from all official events, became a cautionary figure. Once queen consort, she was now a symbolic exile. Her carefully crafted image, built since 2005, collapsed under the weight of 3 pearls. Commentators across Europe called it the fastest fall from royal grace in modern history. In one viral clip, a journalist asked, "Can you lose a crown you were never meant to wear?" Meanwhile, Catherine and Charlotte were spotted together at a children's charity event in Oxford. No jewels, no spectacle, just calm smiles. But to the public, the image said everything. Diana's legacy wasn't buried. It was walking beside her granddaughter, alive, protected, and finally in the right hands. The monarchy issued no official statement. It didn't need to. Because in the end, Camilla wasn't just caught. She was rejected by history. And Catherine didn't need a title. She had already been crowned by the people. Camilla tried to steal history but lost her place in it. Her influence vanished. Her reputation lay in ruins. The crown offered her no protection, and the public showed no mercy. Meanwhile, Catherine remained steady, guarding Diana's legacy and protecting Charlotte's future. No drama, no retaliation, just quiet, unwavering strength. Now, everyone can see who truly embodies Diana's spirit. Camilla wasn't merely caught. She was erased by the truth, by the people, and fatherhood shaped him more than any royal title ever could. In a rare moment of reflection, he said, "Becoming a dad changes everything. The highs are incredible, but the lows really test you. You're not the same man anymore, and that's a gift." He called George a cheeky little rascal who keeps him on his toes. "Yeah, he's a little rascal, let's put it that way. He either reminds me of my brother or of me when I was younger. I'm not sure which." As for Charlotte, she's the heart of our home. But even in the joy, shadows remained. In a BBC interview, when asked about his fears, William paused. "Having kids," he said seriously, "makes you think a lot more about the kind of world you're leaving behind." He wanted their lives grounded in what really matters, not prestige or appearances, but values. "I don't want them chasing things that don't matter," he said. "The world already puts too much importance on the wrong stuff. I want them to know what really counts." And he teaches them, not with lectures but by example. Cleaning out the pet cages together, playing barefoot soccer in the backyard, telling bedtime stories in silly voices, laughing until their stomachs hurt, being there when words fail, always showing up. When asked which role meant the most to him, William's answer was immediate. Not king, not prince, but dad. Many might have expected a grander reply, but he knew the crown meant nothing without the people he loved beneath it. That morning, as he took George's hand and stepped into the unknown, he wasn't the Duke of Cambridge. He was a father, a calm presence, a steady foundation, and in George's eyes, he became something far beyond royalty. He became his hero. No headline or photograph could capture that quiet moment, but between a father's steady hand and a child's searching gaze lay a legacy no crown could define. So, what does news of a 4th child mean for the royal family? Keep watching to find out. A royal hope began quietly, just a whisper. No formal announcement, no flashing cameras, just a gentle ripple over tea tables, a soft murmur echoing through the gilded halls of Buckingham Palace. "Did you hear?" someone asked near Kensington's gates. "No, what is it?" "She's pregnant again." That was all it took to spark excitement. By noon, hearts worldwide were bursting with joy. Catherine, Princess of Wales, was reportedly expecting her 4th child. The news didn't come with breaking headlines or urgent alerts. Instead, it floated softly, like golden morning light, through whispers, private texts, and buzzing online threads. "She always shines," a fan tweeted, "but this glow is different." It had been an unusual year. By mid-2025, The royal family had already faced its share of storms, unspoken tensions, postponed appearances, and candid moments caught by eager cameras. Observers speculated and scrutinized, but this was untouched happiness, a rare spark. At a recent school event in Norfolk, subtle signs had already fueled rumors. The way William stayed just a step closer than usual, how Catherine's hand lingered on her coat a beat longer. Her smile was softer, not forced or formal, but genuine, as if she carried a secret too precious to share. "Is the rumor true?" A reporter asked a palace aide near the gates. The aide said nothing, only smiled knowingly. Then came the official confirmation. Quiet, but powerful. "The Prince and Princess of Wales are pleased to announce they are expecting their 4th child," the statement read. That was it. No reveal, no timeline, no health updates. But those few words set the internet on fire. "She'll be an amazing mother of 4, one commenter wrote on a fan page. "Her love grows with every child." Questions bloomed across tabloids and Twitter alike. Another boy to join Louis and all the royal mischief? Or a sister for Charlotte, someone to share secrets and braid ribbons in her hair? But the palace stayed silent. No hints, no clues. Only the king and queen spoke, simply saying, "We are thrilled. Every child is a blessing." Days later, William was spotted at a public service event, his joy impossible to hide. "She's doing well," he said softly. "How's the princess?" someone asked. "She's really doing well, thanks. Hopefully she's watching tonight and cheering me on. She's been amazing all year, and I know she'd want tonight to be a success. We're deeply grateful." That was all the world needed. A flicker of hope had returned, not through headlines or grand announcements, but in the quiet stirrings of new life waiting to bloom. Sometimes, the most meaningful beginnings come in silence. But this wasn't the end. Even amid all the pressure, a heartfelt gesture from Kate caught the public's attention once again, something the cameras almost missed. That June afternoon, the sun peeked through scattered clouds, casting a warm, golden glow over Buckingham Palace's stone facade. The air in London felt thick with anticipation, as if the whole city was holding its breath. This was no ordinary event. It marked the royal family's first time together on the palace balcony since trooping the color in summer 2023. Among the royals, all dressed in formal elegance, one figure seemed to shine differently: the Princess of Wales. Standing beside Prince William, she was as poised as ever, her smile calm yet gentle. But behind that composed exterior was a well of quiet strength and untold struggles. Her appearance was more than just ceremonial. It was a symbolic comeback after months of personal challenges. As the crowd erupted in applause and cameras clicked rapidly, a nearly invisible moment passed between her and William. It was so subtle that many might have missed it, but those paying close attention saw everything. William briefly turned his head, his eyes meeting hers, and something changed in her expression. Her smile, once soft, blossomed into a warmer, more radiant and intimate one, as if that single glance rekindled an unspoken bond. "That wasn't just a smile," said Nor Hibbert, a body language expert. "It told the story of everything they'd been through: pain, hope, connection." When she looked at him, her entire face softened. That's not royal protocol. That's love. Veteran royal photographer James Watling captured the moment perfectly. She looked at him, and you could see the change in her expression. It was genuine, nothing staged. That single photo tells a whole story: a return, a reunion, a testament to resilience. The image quickly spread across newspapers and social media. But for those who knew the couple's recent journey, it was far more than just grace and elegance. It was a symbol of endurance. Just days later, another photo touched hearts in a very different way. On Father's Day, the couple's official page shared a simple picture. In it, Prince William stood barefoot on a beach, laughing freely while Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis clung to him with pure joy. The moment was raw and tender, accompanied by a handwritten note from the kids. "We love you, Papa. Happy Father's Day, G, C, and L." No press release, no royal seal, just honest love, quietly shared but speaking volumes. Flashback to early 2024, when Kate took a brave step, sitting quietly in a corner of Windsor to record a video that soon touched hearts worldwide. She didn't speak as royalty, but as a woman, a mother navigating her most vulnerable season. "William has been my rock," she said, her voice calm but clearly worn. "His presence has brought me peace in what's been anything but easy." Those few words said more than any lengthy speech. No theatrics, no embellishment, just truth and a glimpse into the private struggles shadowing them. Her mid-June update carried cautious hope. Though treatment would continue for months, she shared, "Some days are better. I find comfort in the everyday moments, school runs, helping with homework, slowly easing back into some work from home," she said. She didn't try to appear invincible. She didn't cast herself as a hero. She simply allowed herself to be real. Meanwhile, William stayed the quiet guardian. He returned to official duties, attended events, shook hands, smiled softly. Behind every polite nod and warm greeting was a man carrying the weight of love and worry. When asked, "How's Kate? How are the kids?" he always gave the same reply, "We're doing okay." That was it. But it was enough. Because in his calm voice there was always a flicker of emotion in his eyes, a softness that spoke of sleepless nights and tender mornings. Kate, in a message to the public, expressed deep gratitude. The kindness shown to them had been overwhelming. She wrote, "It has lifted our spirits more than we can say." It wasn't a political statement. It wasn't a polished thank you. It was simply a family saying, "We feel your love. We needed it. It helped." No fanfare, no stage, no plea for sympathy. Just grace in motion. A woman finding her strength again, and a man standing quietly beside her every step of the way. The world saw the photos. They read the statements. But it was the little things that spoke loudest. Their hands brushing, the ease in their shared glances, the protective way William guided her as they left the balcony. That small touch, his hand resting gently on the small of her back, might have gone unnoticed by most, but for those paying attention, it meant everything. It wasn't just affection. It was reassurance, a silent promise. "We're still here together." "We've faced hard days," Kate once said, "but we found strength in each other." And on that golden afternoon, as the royal family slipped back behind the glass doors, those words lingered in the air like a soft perfume. They had walked through the shadows, hand in hand. And in that, maybe lies their greatest legacy, the love that holds the monarchy together. The morning was still wrapped in the soft colors of dawn. The sky over Kensington was just starting to shift from blue to gold, while the rooftops lay quiet beneath the hush only early morning brings. But inside those historic palace walls, the day was already stirring. Tiny footsteps echoed, laughter chimed, and the delighted shrieks of children filled the grand hallways, sounds unexpected in a place steeped in history. This wasn't just any morning, nor just a palace. It was a home pulsing with warmth and life. At the heart of it all stood Catherine, Princess of Wales, not draped in majesty or royal splendor, but in gentle stillness. Her hair tucked neatly behind her ears, a peaceful smile soft on her lips. She stood quietly just inside the doorway, watching her children move about. No fanfare, no ceremony, just her quiet grace and grounded resilience shining through. She has this amazing way of making everything feel normal. Shared a palace staffer who has served the family for over a decade. Even when the world's watching, she brings it all back to the simple things. The palace walls rarely keep secrets for long, but this one broke them wide open, shocking the world. Catherine, Princess of Wales, was moved to tears as news of a hidden fourth child surfaced publicly. Behind her calm smile lay months, maybe even years, of quiet sacrifice and silent pain. No one was meant to know. "Not like this," a royal aide whispered. Now, with the eyes of the world fixed on her and the monarchy swirling in rumors, questions are louder than ever. Why the secrecy? And what has Kate given up to keep it hidden? This marks the subtle start of a royal transformation. It didn't arrive with fanfare or a grand announcement. No velvet cloak or shining crown marked the moment. It all began with a simple, unexpected craving: thin pickles on toasted brown bread. Back in early 2013, during her first pregnancy, Catherine, then Duchess of Cambridge, sought small comforts while the world obsessed over her every move. Away from the relentless press, in her private quarters, she fought a hidden battle inside her own body, a struggle that would reshape how the world sees royalty and motherhood. "I was very sick, terribly sick," Catherine later revealed in an emotional interview. The royal household recently confirmed what many suspected. Another baby might be on the way. As rumors spread through Buckingham Palace halls and the media ignited speculation, memories returned to that fragile start when Kate, newly part of the royal family, embraced her most humbling role yet, a first-time mom. Through it all, Prince William stood by her side without wavering. "He looked so helpless," she shared. "There was pain in his eyes. He wished he could take it away, but he couldn't." Her illness was hyperemesis gravidarum, a severe form of morning sickness that left her incapacitated for days, sometimes weeks. Even standing up brought waves of crushing nausea. Eating was a struggle. Moving felt unbearable. Still, she kept going. "Even when I felt completely empty, my body carried a life that felt sacred," she whispered. In those weakest moments, she turned inward, searching for strength. What she found was hypnobirthing. It wasn't advice from royal counselors or some trending wellness fad. It was quiet, personal, and hers alone. "People think it's William whispering encouragement," she laughed softly. "But it was me, telling myself I could get through it." She embraced the practice fully, breathing differently, picturing her birth, calming her mind. Gradually, she rewrote the story in her head. Labor wasn't a hardship. It was her right. Experts like Naomi Wilson praised her bravery. "Hypnobirthing helps women reclaim their birth experience. It teaches them to trust themselves again," she said. But despite that inner strength, the sickness lingered like a dark cloud. "I wasn't glowing," Catherine admitted with a small shrug. "I just got through it." What kept her going were the little pleasures: avocados, buttered toast, warm tea, and especially one thing: curry. Not just any curry, but a lovingly prepared vegetable blend from a small wellness shop in her hometown of Bucklebury. Owned by a warm-hearted couple, Chan and Hash Shanadia, the shop became a quiet refuge. She'd come in so softly, Hash remembered, always smiling, always thankful. She loved that curry. Sometimes her mom stopped by, sometimes her sister, but Kate always called it her little escape. That meal was more than just food. It was her comfort, a steady and familiar anchor amid the chaos. It was therapy. Picture this moment: a future queen curled up on a couch, spoon in hand, eyes closed over a bowl of warm spices and care. Far from flashing cameras and watching crowds, she was just a woman weathering a storm. And this raw, unfiltered side of her, that imperfect, genuine version, was what made millions connect with her. Over time, Catherine became known as someone unafraid to show her real self. She once admitted to re-wearing dresses at official events, not because she had to, but because she believed in it. "I just don't like waste," she said with a small smile. That honesty, that humility, made her relatable. She was the duchess who worried about her speeches, stressed over her kids, craved pickles more than diamonds, and openly spoke about the hidden struggles women endure during pregnancy. "Pregnancy changes everything," she said during a talk on maternal health. "It doesn't just affect the mother. It touches everyone." She spoke about how deeply William felt the weight of it all. She remembered hearing his footsteps pacing outside the bathroom, his awful jokes that distracted her when even water was unbearable, his steady hand in hospital hallways and waiting rooms. He couldn't fix it, but he never gave up trying. She said those months of exhaustion and fear transformed their relationship, not just as royals, but as equals and soulmates navigating the unknown together. Then came that unforgettable July day in 2013. Crowds lined up outside the hospital. Reporters shouted. Camera flashes popped like fireworks. But inside the Lindo wing there was calm. A new mom, a proud dad, and their sleeping newborn son, Prince George, swaddled tight, his tiny face peaceful as he slept through the chaos. Catherine, still pale but glowing in a different way, stepped forward. She wasn't perfect. She wasn't putting on a show. She was real, and the world saw it. Gone were the days when royal women vanished through childbirth and returned untouched. She stood as living proof that motherhood, in all its raw honesty, belongs front and center, that women's stories deserve to be heard, and with that, she inspired countless mothers to share their own journeys. Now, as whispers about a fourth baby grow louder, fans wonder again. Will Catherine turn to hypnobirthing? Will the sickness return? Will she open the door for the world to follow her path once more? No one knows what the future holds. But one thing is sure. Whether curled up with a bowl of curry or leaning on William through the hard times, she will face it with the same quiet strength and grace she always has. Because that's who she is. A duchess not just by title, but by courage. A mother not only in blood, but in resilience. A woman whose struggles have become her true crown. "Pregnancy wasn't always easy for me," she once said, a knowing smile playing on her lips. "But I'm grateful for who I became because of it." And in that simple, honest truth, there's something far more beautiful than any royal jewel. But what part did Prince William play in all this? When a prince becomes a father, dawn breaks gently over London, the sky a soft silver, as if the world itself is holding its breath. Inside Kensington Palace, soft golden sunlight filtered through linen curtains, casting gentle shadows on the ornate frames and polished wood, a quiet blessing almost withheld. But the air inside was heavy, not with peace, but with tension. In the master bedroom, Catherine, Princess of Wales, lay still beneath the linen covers. Her hand rested weakly on top of the quilt, her skin nearly translucent against the ivory fabric. Her lips were dry, her breathing shallow. Her eyes fluttered open and caught the faint outline of the wall clock. But time had lost all meaning. Her body wasn't just tired, it was overwhelmed by relentless waves of sickness, cruel and unpredictable. Every breath was a struggle, and this morning, the burden felt too heavy. "Forgive me," she whispered, barely audible. "I should be the one going." From the shadows, Prince William stood quietly, crossing to her side without a word. He gently brushed his hand across her forehead, a touch filled with tenderness and quiet concern. "He knows you'd be there if you could. That's enough for him today," he said softly. She nodded, blinking back the tears that threatened to fall. Outside the room, little Prince George waited in the hallway, dressed neatly in his new school uniform. His blazer fit perfectly on his small frame, his shoes polished and his tie snug. But he lingered not for how he looked, but for the absence of his mom. "Mommy?" he called softly. As William stepped into view, George looked up, hopeful. "Is Mommy coming?" William knelt down to meet his son's eyes, placing a firm but gentle hand on his shoulder. "Mommy needs to rest today, but she really wanted to come, so it's just you and me, champ. Think we can handle that?" George hesitated, then nodded slightly. His wide eyes showed his nerves, but William smiled reassuringly. "As long as I'm holding your hand, you've got everything you need." With that, they stepped out. Just father and son, no fanfare, no guards, but quiet determination. The royal car hummed softly as it moved through the city. They took a discreet route, avoiding the crowds, but no amount of caution could keep the cameras away at Thomas's battery. The car slowed to a stop. William stepped out first, smoothing his jacket with one hand and holding tightly to George's hand with the other. Immediately the clicking started, camera shutters, flashes, murmurs, but William remained steady. His whole world was right there beside him, small fingers gripping his own, eyes wide with cautious curiosity. Leaning down, William whispered, "It's okay to be nervous. I get nervous sometimes too, but you've got more courage than you know." George blinked and nodded. Together, they walked slowly through the gates. William let his son take a step ahead, giving him a small sense of independence while never letting go of his hand. When it was time to say goodbye, William crouched down again. No grand speech, just a few simple words that mattered. "You've got this. I'm already so proud of you." A teacher reached out, gently guiding George toward the school building. Just before he disappeared inside, George looked back one last time, eyes searching. William smiled and waved. "Go on," he mouthed. "I'll be right here when you're done." Later that afternoon, when reporters asked William about dropping George off, he let out a modest chuckle. "Honestly," he said, "there was another parent crying, and that actually made it a little easier for me. It was real, it was simple, it was human." Back at the palace, William returned to Catherine's side and recounted every detail. The strength of George's grip, the glance over his shoulder, the hesitant steps through the school gates. She listened closely, a faint smile touching her lips. "Was he brave?" she whispered. "Just like you," William replied, gently brushing her hair back. That day wasn't about royal duties, uniforms, or photo ops. It was about fatherhood, the quiet, steady kind, rooted in love. Later that year, in an interview, William shared something surprising. "I knew nothing about mental health," he admitted. "Not a thing. But Kate and I started realizing how important it really is, how big of an issue it actually is. We had to learn from scratch." It had been a busy few weeks for the new dad, but he'd finally sat down for his first interview since George's birth, and it was clear he was embracing fatherhood. They showed it not through flashy statements, but through deliberate actions, thoughtful talks, and a willingness to listen. After visiting a local school one afternoon, William came home visibly moved. "Some of those kids," he told a friend, "express their feelings better than most adults I know." That gave him hope and changed his perspective. He realized strength wasn't about being silent or stoic. It was about being whole, and he was determined to pass that lesson on to George, Charlotte, and Louis. At a football event, when asked about Charlotte, he chuckled, "She's got the kick already. Holding your hand one moment, sending the ball flying the next. She's got natural talent." Talking about having a daughter, he admitted, "I didn't grow up with sisters. Having Charlotte has opened my heart. It's different, but it's beautiful." That perhaps has always been Catherine's quiet superpower. Not in how she walks beside a future king or commands attention from a palace balcony, but in the way she nudges her kids awake with soft kisses, folds their tiny clothes with her own hands, and gently calls out each morning, Time to get up, my loves. But recent months haven't been without storm clouds. One word, Cancer, struck like lightning on a summer afternoon. Swift, jarring, cruel. It shattered the calm and rippled through the kingdom, the press, and the hearts of countless strangers who had come to admire her from afar. While many expected Catherine to step back, to retreat into stillness and silence, she did something completely different. She never once talked about stepping away, a close confidant revealed. Her first words were, "How can I be present for them through this?" It wasn't stubbornness. It was love in its purest form. Despite treatments that drained her and whispered talks behind closed doors, she chose again and again to stay fully present, for her husband, for her children, for the life they were quietly building together. "She never complains," a palace aide said softly, eyes gentle. "She just keeps going, for them, for her little ones." George, Charlotte, and Louis, known to the public as young royals, but to her, simply her heart. Not symbols or heirs, just kids with grass-stained pants, pillow fights, and bedtime giggles. And to Catherine, they are everything. No matter where she was, her eyes always sought them out. Her arms never hesitated, even when exhausted. Her heart never wavered, stretching wide enough to hold them all. But she wasn't alone in this. Standing beside her, not overbearing but solid, was William, the man the world calls the future king. But to her, and to their children, he was simply a father, a partner, a friend. "Whatever happens outside these walls," he once said during a hospital visit, "my family is my anchor. They come first, always." And he's lived up to that promise. Not with grand speeches, but through quiet, steady acts of devotion, school drop-offs, midnight sicknesses, cheering from the sidelines at soccer games, whispering encouragement before dance recitals. He shows up. When George was born in July 2013, time seemed to pause. Cameras focused, the world leaned in. But William's world shrank to the tiny bundle in his arms. It felt like everything else disappeared, he once told a close friend. 2 years later, on a crisp spring morning, Charlotte arrived, called the monarchy's darling, but to William, simply his daughter, who captured him with a single blink. Then came Louis in 2018, with a smile as mischievous as it was heartwarming. "He's quite the character," William joked. "Keeps us on our toes but fills our days with laughter." In a rare, candid moment, William admitted, "Becoming a dad changes you. You start seeing the world differently. Everything is about making it better for them." Now whispers swirl again. Quiet glances, subtle touches. Is another child on the way? No confirmations, no big announcements, just the language of touch. William's hand resting instinctively on Catherine's back, her fingers brushing her belly with gentle care. "You see it?" a seasoned royal photographer said. "It's in the way they share looks, like there's a secret blooming between them. Maybe there is." Catherine continues to handle royal duties with grace. Galas, charity work, all carried out with calm poise. But it's in the quiet moments, the everyday spaces, where her true light shines. When she parts Charlotte's hair with practiced fingers, ties Louis's shoes carefully, or leans in to help George with tough homework, that's where her brilliance lives. She never wanted the spotlight, a family confidant shared. It's always been about the kids, their dreams, their peace. William, too, shows his real self in life's smallest moments, crouching to listen to Charlotte's stories, spinning Louis around just to hear his infectious laugh, walking beside George at his own pace, not rushing but matching his steps. These aren't moments staged for the cameras. They're the heart of their family. Their moments are raw, honest, and rooted in love. And maybe that's their greatest legacy. In a home steeped in centuries of tradition and weighed down by royal expectations, William and Catherine have created something rare and real, not a spectacle, but a family. The world may admire them for their lineage, the tiaras, the rituals, and inherited power, but what people truly cherish is their humanity. The way William watches his children with wonder, the way Catherine's fingers gently hold theirs, and how they've transformed a palace into a place of tenderness, a sanctuary where love speaks louder than legacy. So, if there is indeed a new baby on the way, it won't just be another headline. It will be one more heartbeat to cherish, another source of joyful chaos, a new voice in bedtime stories, and a fresh pair of hands to hold during morning cuddles. And once again, curious eyes will peer through Kensington's towering windows. But what those eyes will see won't be a pageant or a symbol of royal pomp. They'll see a family wrapped in laughter and bound together by devotion. That said, one detail has sparked much curiosity: the timing and way the news was shared. Will the public continue to support Kate, or will criticism begin? Kate's healing journey and whispers of a fourth child stirred deep emotions. It was March, and the world stood still. The Princess of Wales sat before a simple backdrop, her voice calm, her gaze soft but determined. "In January, I underwent major abdominal surgery in London," she shared. "At the time, it was believed my condition was non-cancerous. However, tests after the operation showed cancer was present. My medical team advised that I undergo preventative chemotherapy, and I am now in the early stages of treatment." This wasn't just a royal statement. It was the voice of a mother, a wife, and a woman who had spent over a decade in the public eye. In that moment, Catherine wasn't just a princess. She was every woman who's ever been blindsided by a diagnosis and forced to face uncertainty with grace. Then came the whispers, soft at first, hesitant. Could there be another child? A fourth heartbeat to join George, Charlotte, and Louis? For some, the idea was shocking. For others, it was tender. But it spread across headlines, sparking both hope and criticism. This wasn't the Kate of 10 years ago. This was a woman enduring chemotherapy, balancing motherhood, royal duties, and the delicate act of maintaining privacy in the public eye. Still, the question lingered. If Catherine were to have a fourth child, it would be a deeply personal decision, said royal commentator Emily Andrews. It's not about the crown or tradition, it's about healing, family, and legacy within the royal household. Such a birth would alter the line of succession. Prince George would remain second in line after his father, William, followed by Princess Charlotte, then Prince Louis. A fourth child would slot in fifth, ahead of Prince Harry and his children. Another twist in the already complex modern monarchy. But as palace insiders murmured, this wouldn't be about titles or ranks, it would be about completeness. But what kind of child would they be? If it's a boy, biographer Katie Nicole speculated, he might inherit William's quiet charisma or Kate's grounded warmth. If a girl, maybe she'll carry Diana's gentleness paired with her mother's poise. Either way, this child would grow up surrounded by love, not just royal duty. Royal watchers debated everything, from looks to personality traits. Would this child have George's sense of responsibility, Charlotte's quiet confidence, Louis's playful spark, or something entirely new? Perhaps a unique magic that only a fourth child born amid crisis could bring. One insider shared, "Kate once said her children are her heart. If she decides to have another, it would be a powerful sign that hope still lives in her, despite everything she's faced." But not everyone greeted the news warmly. Critics quickly took to social media, questioning the timing. "She just finished chemo. How is this safe?" one post read. "Is this responsible?" asked another. The criticism was sharp and unforgiving. Yet in the same digital space, love blossomed. Supporters rallied with compassion. "If anyone can decide what's best for her body, it's Kate," one mother wrote. "She's strong and deserves happiness." Another added, "After all she's been through, if she wants another child, that should be celebrated, not questioned." Doctors, too, offered cautious optimism. "Chemotherapy can affect fertility long-term," said oncology specialist Dr. Hannah Wilcox. "But it's not definitive. Every woman's body reacts differently. With proper care and time, it's not impossible." Kate, ever quiet about her struggles, never addressed the rumors directly. But those close to her noticed a subtle change. She was smiling more, walking farther, laughing louder with her children. "William, always the watchful protector, seemed calmer too," said a palace aide. "It's like they're standing at the edge of something beautiful. There's a calm about them, not because the storm's passed, but because they've found a rhythm in the chaos." For William, a fourth child would mean more than just a new family member. It would be a second chance. The trauma of losing his mother at such a young age never left him. "He wants to be the parent Diana wanted to be," said friend Tom Bradby, present, loving, and human. To raise a child born in the wake of pain, beneath global headlines and personal trials, would be his quiet redemption. As summer faded, Kate was spotted once again holding Louis's hand in a park. Her smile was lighter, her scarf carefully wrapped around her hair. Reporters noticed her glow, and the public leaned in, wondering. Nothing was confirmed. Nothing denied. And maybe that's exactly how it should be. "If there is a child," author Ingrid Seward said, "let the world hear when they're ready to share, not a moment before." Behind these tender scenes lies a heavier burden for William, the real test of whether he can carry it with the same grace he shows at home. That day by the shore, the wind played mischievously, tugging at hair, ruffling clothes, whistling like a child at play. Waves rhythmically lapped at their feet. But it wasn't the ocean stealing the show. All eyes were on Prince William, the heir to the British throne, holding the hands of his 3 children as they leapt into the salty air, perfectly in sync. Their laughter echoed across the coastline. The photo Catherine took in the summer of 2024 for William's birthday was much more than just a keepsake. It was a glimpse into the heart of a father. No royal attire, no grand palace backdrop, just nature, raw and real, and the pure joy shining from his face. A simple, authentic moment of fatherhood. One viewer said, "This is the most beautiful royal photo I've ever seen. No diamonds, just devotion." For William, moments like this weren't new. They were just rarely shared with the public. As far back as 2016, William opened up in a heartfelt interview. "Yes, I was born a prince," he said. "But before all that, I'm a dad. My greatest goal is to raise kind, compassionate kids." He wasn't seeking applause. His words came from deep inside, a genuine commitment to being present, hands-on, emotionally grounded. Unlike many monarchs before him, William doesn't separate his royal duties from parenting. He blends them naturally. "People might forget my speeches or awards," he once said quietly, "but my kids won't forget if I was there when they needed me, and I am always there." During an informal visit to Woodgate Valley Urban Farm, he casually mentioned they have guinea pigs at home. When asked who takes care of them, he smiled. "Honestly, that's me doing the cleaning. They're high-maintenance pets, but I don't mind. Even future kings get their hands dirty." Back in July 2013, spectators at a cricket game noticed William sitting with Prince George. No security crowding them, no posed smiles. Just a dad and son sharing pizza, cracking jokes, reacting naturally to the game. A woman nearby said, "They were just like any father and son." That authenticity is what William works hard to protect, not just for George, but for Charlotte and little Louis too. In a candid interview with British GQ, he said, "I want my kids to grow up in the real world, not behind palace gates, where laughter drowns out camera clicks." There was steel in his voice, a clear message from a father on a mission. Behind that determination is a deeper influence, his late mother, Princess Diana. Known for being hands-on, kneeling to kids' level, embracing AIDS patients, spinning through palace halls with her sons, William carries her spirit with him. At the big help-out event during King Charles III's coronation, William didn't just pose for photos. He brought Louis along, and the two were spotted operating an excavator together, a young prince handling heavy machinery next to his dad. A volunteer later said, "That wasn't for the cameras. It was a father teaching a life lesson. Give back. Get involved. Don't be afraid to dig deep." Those lessons carry on in their daily lives. At bedtime, after the day's noise fades, William reads to Louis. One favorite book is Homewards, the story of a boy helping a homeless woman. But for William, it's more than just a story. He once said, "If I can teach my son to truly feel empathy, then I've succeeded." His voice cracked just a bit, proof of how deeply he meant it. It's these quiet, tender rituals that hold their family together, not fancy events or grand banquets, but sandy toes, laughter over pizza, muddy paws, and bedtime stories. Still, life in the spotlight comes with constant challenges. The press doesn't always respect their boundaries. William has spoken out against that, especially when it threatens his kids' privacy. "They're not performers," he said firmly in a rare media statement. "They deserve a chance to be kids, to make mistakes, to grow up without being on display." When the pressure mounts, he doesn't retreat into royal walls. Instead, he leads his family outdoors, to wild spaces, to laughter and freedom, where they can simply be themselves. That's why that beach photo meant so much. It wasn't about the location or the occasion. It reflected William's truest self. He's raising his kids with freedom, a royal expert said, but also with values that ground them. William doesn't parade his role as a dad, he just lives it. One overlooked moment captures this perfectly. During a school run, a photographer caught William kneeling beside Louis, fixing his collar and whispering something in his ear. Louis beamed with a big grin. The photo quietly carried the caption, "Tomorrow's king, today's father." William never pretends to be perfect. He jokes about his flaws, does the chores no one sees, and stands steady through life's storms. His future kingdom may be vast, and his list of titles may grow. But when asked what matters most, he's already given the only answer that counts. More than anything, I want my kids to know they're loved. And by all accounts, they do. What do you think? How will Beatrice react when the truth about the paternity comes out? Share your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Before you go, be sure to click the